Hello everybody, my name is KingStix and Season 9 Ranked has officially started. A lot of you are probably very eager to jump into Ranked, but before you do, you should watch this video since support is the most auto-filled role in League of Legends. These 10 support champions that I'm about to show you are the 10 best support champions to play in main in Season 9 League of Legends. The main criteria I use to rank these champions is they have to have at least above a 50% base win rate. So for people first starting to play this champion, they have to have above a 50% win rate. If it's below that, there's no point in playing that champion. Secondly, the champion needs to have a scalable win rate, which means the more you play the champion, the win rate needs to get considerably higher. Various melee supports did not make this list. People like Blitz, Thresh, and Pyke all have really low base win rates. Unless you've played 50 plus games on these champions, you should really just avoid picking them altogether. Even Janna has some abysmal win rates. She actually has a lower win rate the more you play her rather than playing her for the first time. Janna also won't be making this list. Coming in at a respectable number 10, we have Morgana. She has a 50% base win rate for people who have just played her, and over a 52% win rate for people who have played 50 or more games on her. Morgana's 52% win rate could be much higher. A lot of people don't realize that she is somewhat situational. You don't necessarily want to pick her unless you have someone on your team who is an extreme hyper carry like Master Yi, Vayne, or Twitch. She lacks a lot of base support spells. She doesn't have any heals or any normal shield. She does have her black shield, but that doesn't help you at all against true damage or physical damage. What Morgana lacks in traditional support spells, she does make up for mostly with hardcore CC. She has an extremely long snare on her Q, scaling all the way up to 3 seconds, and she also has an AoE slow and stun on her ultimate. Once you get the hang of landing your snares consistently and you properly peel for the hyper carry on your team, your win rate on Morgana will grow and become very impressive. Number 9 on our list plays fairly similar to Morgana, however provides a lot more supporty aspects, however has a lot more burst and can comfortably stay back at range without having to get up close to use her ultimate, and that is Lux. Lux has a higher base win rate at 51% with a very strong 54% win rate after you've played 50 plus games on her. When used correctly, Lux's shield is straight up overpowered and you can easily win a 2v2 with it as long as you land both parts of it on your AD carry. Positioning on Lux is by far her hardest aspect. She is very squishy and she doesn't have many good tools for getting away once the enemies are on her. It's important that you keep track of what enemies' abilities are up and which abilities threaten you. That way you can play around them without putting yourself in harm's way. For example, if you're playing against a Blitzcrank and you know his hook is up, you wouldn't necessarily want to run at him to auto attack him. On the flip side, if you were to know that Blitzcrank's hook was down, you could hard pressure him off of the CS and the minion wave with auto attacks, your Q, and potentially your E. In the late game as Lux, as long as she has a proper front line, she plays really easy and is extremely potent. One good W and your front line will not die, and if the enemy tries to fight back, you throw out your snare, your E, and your ultimate. You're gonna one-shot somebody. You just throw out your snare and they're guaranteed dead. At number 8 on our list, we have a much more traditional support who is almost always meta, and at the very least is always decent in every meta, and that is Soraka. She has arguably the strongest level 1 out of any support character in the game in lane phase. With just her Q alone, she can push most melee supports out of lane phase early on, and she can bully most ranged supports out of lane unless it's someone with loads of damage like Brand who can potentially trade back. The reason why she's so strong at trading in lane phase is her Q is on a very low cooldown. It does a lot of damage, roughly equivalent to an auto attack and a half to 2 autos. It also speeds her up whenever she goes to run away, so it's difficult to trade back with her if she does land it, and it also gives her a decent heal over 3 seconds whenever she does land it. So if you go in for a trade with her, even if you land your ability, if she hits you with her Q, she will automatically win the trade. This is really frustrating for AD carry players whenever they're playing against a good Soraka. Their support doesn't back them up at all, while Soraka basically 1v2s them out of the lane phase and pushes them off with her autos and Qs. Even if you don't understand lane pressure and you don't take advantage of Soraka's overpowered Q in the early lane phase, as long as you max your W and you stick to your AD carry and don't get caught out, you will have above a 50% win rate on Soraka guaranteed. The biggest weakness to Soraka is her self-pill. Once an enemy is on her, it's very tricky for her to get away. However, if she does take barrier and flash, if an enemy gets on top of her, she can simply throw down her Q for the slow, E for the silence, and use her barrier to soak up as much damage as possible while her teammates try to get that enemy off of her. A really useful tip for playing against high damage assassins, especially since using exhaust on somebody who's using ignite isn't that useful since ignite is true damage. At number 7 on our list, we have Brand. He was originally meant for the mid lane, but after the mid lane items got reworked, he didn't have a proper item path. Now he's just played as support and abused for his high base damages. Brand has a respectable 52% base win rate and a high 54% win rate after you've played him 50 plus games. In the early lane phase, if you land just a few Pillar of Flame, you can push most opponents out of lane, and once you have them under their turret, it's very easy to land your spells whenever they go in to last hit a minion. Brand continues to scale respectably throughout the game. Just land one W and toss in your ultimate and watch the whole enemy team melt. If your team is already high in AP damage, you should probably opt to play a more shield or heal based support that can help your carries rather than tacking on more magic damage onto your team, because the enemies will just stack MR and void most of your damage. At number 6 on our list, we have Nami. Nami strikes a really interesting balance between CC machine and healer. Her W is stronger than a Soraka heal, however it is on a much longer cooldown. On the flip side, Nami has a lot of AoE CC with her Q and ultimate. Nami truly pairs best with an AD carry that can push their auto attacks to the limit. An AD carry that is auto attack reliant, so instead of something like a Jhin or Ezreal, instead pair Nami with the Vayne and Lucian to take advantage of her speed up and the damage per auto attack on her E buff, which also doubles as a slow to help your AD carry to stick to the enemies. Learning how to play Nami effectively in lane phase can be more challenging than playing Soraka. However, if you have decent synergy with your AD carry, Nami can be much more rewarding and impactful in team fights, since she doesn't rely off of purely healing, which can be shut down by Morello, Executioners, or Ignite. At number 5 on our list, we have another AP machine, Velkoz, with a 52% base win rate. Velkoz is a great pickup even if you're not that familiar with him. As long as you've played AP mages in the bot lane before, Velkoz will be very easy for you to take advantage of. Your win rate should also scale on him. After 50 plus games, the average League of Legends player's win rate goes from 52% on him all the way up to 56%. The reason why Velkoz is probably the best mage support in the game is his true damage. Even if your team is somewhat AP heavy, or even if the enemy team has beefy tanks that have a lot of MR and armor, Velkoz's true damage will tear right through it. At number 4, we have Zilean. He ranks slightly higher on this list since he is relatively easier to play in terms of positioning. Even if you're not landing any good double bombs, as long as you press R before your teammate dies, Zilean is a monster in team fights. He makes it very difficult to single out the carry, because if you do, they're going to get right back up and you're automatically going to lose the fight. Zilean does fall off a little bit in the true late game, since there's a lot of damage and your teammate can pop like a grape, but in the early and mid game especially, his ultimate reigns supreme. If you have a hyper AD carry on your team, or a hyper carry in general on your team, Zilean is an amazing support that you should definitely main. At number 3, we have Fiddlesticks, my long lost love. He sure can't mid or play jungle, but boy can he play support. He has a 51% base win rate, and after you've played 50 plus games with him on average, you should have around a 56% win rate, which is crazy high for how easy he is to play. His mechanics are all point and click. He doesn't have a single skill shot in his kit. All you have to do is point and click. Even with his CC, his fear, you just point your cursor and that's the end of it. What you're gonna have to learn when playing Fiddlesticks is when to go in on the enemies after you've harassed them enough, and also recognize when you should roam with your ultimate. That's the difference between the 51% Fiddlesticks players and the 56% Fiddlesticks players, is they understand which lanes they should impact with their ultimate at level 6. And a lot of times whenever your opponents are playing safe in lane, unless your jungler is going to dive with you, you usually shouldn't be ulting your own lane on Fiddlesticks support. At number 2 on our list, we have one of the most popular supports right now, and that is Zyra, with a whopping 53% base win rate and with an even higher 56% win rate after you've played 50 plus games on her. Zyra is undoubtedly the best well-rounded AP support mage right now in League of Legends. Zyra has a much better mix of CC than Brand or Velkoz does. Maybe not at first glance, but once she has Rylaia's with her Thorn Spitters, she can slow down a whole enemy team if she uses just a couple of spells. If you're used to playing long range AP support mages in the bot lane, it'll take you a little bit longer to pick up Zyra because of her quirky kit. However, once you do, you will see some insane LP gains. And at the number 1 spot on our list, we have Sona. I've been saying for such a long time now that she's the best support in the game, if not one of the best champions in the game, with a 54% base win rate, with nearly a 58% win rate after you've played 50 plus games on her. At first glance, Sona doesn't seem like a carry monster. You really have to look at her kit though. She can get away with not building boots at all if you're a really good player, or even if you're a decent Sona player, you can get away with just tier 1 boots, allowing you to build more powerful support items like Ardent and Redemption much earlier. Your E allows you to do this by giving you a massive movement speed bonus lasting for up to 7 seconds if you don't take any damage during that duration, and if you're positioning properly as Sona, just moving around the map or in a team fight, you really shouldn't be taking that much damage at all. Sona also doesn't suffer from the Soraka crutch, which is Grievous Wounds. Ignite, Morello, or Executioner's Calling can completely nerf Soraka in the late game. If it gets applied to her teammates, she has no real way of keeping them alive. Sona, on the other hand, has a heal and an instant 1-frame 5-man shield if they are close enough to her, which you cannot nerf with Grievous Wounds. There's no way currently in League of Legends to make a shield not as big. Once Sona has her W max and she has 40% CDR, it will only be on a 3.6 second cooldown, and the shield lasts for a second and a half. This means that at any given point in time, if Sona is playing correctly, her teammates shouldn't be without a shield for any longer maximum than 2 seconds. This, combined with Sona's massive AoE speed up, allows her to AoE buff her team with the enemies not having much counterplay. If Sona is attacking a squishy, especially if she has a Lich Bane, she can usually do around half their health with just 1 Q and auto attack, which is very impressive for a support style champion since she can't miss a Q and an auto. It's not a skill shot. To top it all off, Sona has a massive AoE stun. It is technically a skill shot, but it's very difficult to miss if you're patient with it. More often than not using your ultimate on Sona is the better option because it puts a lot of pressure on the enemies to do something. And that is going to conclude our top 10 best support champions to main in Season 9. Let me know down in the comments below which support champion you are looking into maining or trying out. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.